Tonight, you will cook something. You'll turn a knob or strike a flame, feel the heat rise, and watch raw ingredients soften into a meal. It's such an ordinary act that you'll barely notice you're doing it. But for most of the time your species has existed, that act was impossible. There was no fire to cook with, no pot, no flame to break food down before it reached your mouth. And yet, your ancestors survived. They grew. They spread across an entire continent. So, what exactly were they putting in their bodies? The answer is stranger than you'd think. For millions of years, your ancestors ate everything raw. Raw roots, raw leaves, raw insects pulled from bark, raw flesh, torn from bone with bare hands and blunt teeth. Picture that for a moment. No seasoning, no softening, no heat to make it safe or gentle. Just cold, tough, living food, exactly as the earth produced it. And it took forever to eat. A chimpanzee today spends close to half of its waking hours simply chewing. Catherine Milton, a primatologist who spent decades studying what primates actually put in their mouths, found that our closest living relatives grind through hour after hour of fibrous plants just to stay alive. Your early ancestors were no different. Chewing wasn't a quick step before swallowing. Chewing was the job. It was the thing that swallowed the daylight. Why did it take so long? Because raw food fights back. A raw leaf is wrapped in tough cell walls your stomach struggles to crack. A raw root is dense and starchy and stubborn, and raw meat is worse than you imagine. It isn't soft, it's elastic. It stretches and resists and clings to the bone, and without a sharp blade or a hot flame, tearing it apart is exhausting work. Your ancestors didn't sit down to dinner. They wrestled with it, so they got clever. Long before fire, your ancestors invented something quieter and just as powerful. They picked up stones, they smashed, they pounded roots into pulp and cracked bones open to reach the soft marrow hidden inside. That marrow mattered more than you'd guess. It was rich, it was fatty, and it was one of the few dense sources of energy a creature with no fire could reliably get. When the big predators had finished with a carcass and moved on, your ancestors moved in. Not for the meat, for the bones nobody else could open. Think about what that means. For a long stretch of your history, you weren't the hunter at the top. You were the one who arrived late, waited for the lions to leave, and made a meal out of what everyone else discarded. Does that sound like the mighty ancestor you pictured? There were other foods too, buried under your feet. Tubers, underground stems swollen with starch, hidden in the dirt where no other animal thought to dig. Your ancestors learned to find them, pull them up, and pound them soft enough to swallow. These weren't glamorous meals, they were survival. Dense, dull, earthy calories that kept a body moving through a world with no supermarket and no stove. And insects. Millions of them. Termites, grubs, larvae, all packed with protein and fat and completely free for anyone patient enough to gather them. Your ancestors ate bugs the way you might eat a handful of nuts. Casually, constantly, without a second thought. This was the menu for most of human existence. Roots and marrow and insects and whatever raw flesh could be scavenged or caught. It was enough to live on, but it was barely enough. Every calorie had to be fought for, dug for, or cracked open. And all of it had to be chewed, slowly, for hours, every single day. Then everything changed. Somewhere in the deep past, your ancestors did something no animal had ever done before. They took control of fire. And when they held food over that flame, something quiet and enormous happened. The heat did the work their teeth used to do. It softened tough fibers. It broke down stubborn cells. It killed the things in raw meat that could make them sick. In a single moment, food became easier to eat and easier to use. The scientist who gave this idea its shape is Richard Wrangham, a Harvard biologist who argued that cooking didn't just change your meals, it changed your body. In his book Catching Fire, he made a bold claim. Cooking is what made you human. Here's the strange logic behind it. Your brain is expensive. It is one of the hungriest organs you own, burning roughly a fifth of your energy while sitting silently inside your skull. An organ that greedy needs a lot of fuel, and on a raw diet, where every calorie takes hours of chewing to extract, there simply wasn't enough fuel to spare. A raw-fed body could keep a small brain running, but a large one? That was a luxury the old menu couldn't afford. Cooking rewrote the budget. When heat did the breaking down for you, your gut no longer had to. Two researchers, Leslie Aiello and Peter Wheeler, described this as a kind of trade. As food got easier to digest, the long, energy-hungry intestines of your ancestors could shrink, and the energy those shrinking guts no longer needed was freed up for something else, something new, something that had been waiting for its chance. Your brain began to grow. Sit with how quietly dramatic that is. The thing that lets you read this sentence: imagine your past, and picture a future that hasn't happened yet may exist because your ancestors learned to soften their food. Not because they were the strongest, not because they were the fastest, but because they found a way to eat without spending the whole day chewing. So, what did ancient humans eat before fire? They ate the hard version of everything: the raw, the tough, the buried, the scavenged. They ate the food that demanded time and teeth and endless effort. And that effort had a ceiling. As long as eating raw stayed the rule, your ancestors stayed roughly what they had always been. Fire didn't just add flavor, fire lifted the ceiling. But the old diet never fully let go of you. Look inside your own mouth. Your jaw is smaller than your distant ancestors' jaws. Your teeth are crowded, sometimes overlapping, sometimes twisting sideways for room that isn't there. And your wisdom teeth, those last stubborn molars at the back, so often arrive with nowhere to go that many people have them cut out entirely. Why would a body build teeth it has no space for? Because those teeth were designed for a mouth you no longer have, a larger jaw, a rawer diet, hours of grinding that your ancestors did and you never will. The crowding in your mouth is a fossil, a leftover from an age of chewing, still printed into your skull long after the chewing stopped. You carry that world with you. Every time you eat something soft, something cooked, something ready in minutes, you're living inside a change that took 1,000,000 years to arrive. The chewing that once filled your ancestors' entire day, you now finish before you've even sat down. The calories they cracked from bone and dug from dirt, you pull from a shelf without a thought. You've inherited the easiest eating in the history of your species, and you almost never notice. So, the next time a meal comes together quickly, pause, just for a second. Somewhere behind you stretches a long line of ancestors who never knew that feeling, who woke up hungry, spent their daylight gathering and pounding and chewing, and lay down still working through the last of it. They ate raw because they had no other choice, and they kept eating that way, generation after generation, until one of them held food to a flame and changed what a human being could become. Tonight, you will cook something. You'll turn a knob, feel the heat rise, and barely notice the moment at all. But in that ordinary, forgettable act, you are finishing something your ancestors started over 1,000,000 years ago, in the dark, with cold food and aching jaws and no idea what it would one day make of you. Thank you for watching to the end. Comment raw if you made it this far. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Click here or here for more videos.